Hey guys. So, chapter 3 is going to give you a little bit more subtle information about certain things that the corporation controls. So, pay close attention to some of the things that Honor talks about.
Chapter 3. There were 3 old steamer trunks standing in the house, and each had been unlocked and unpacked by the neighborhood postal officer. Clothes and bedding were piled neatly on the floor. "My bear," said Honor, scooping up her old worn teddy. "My coffee pot," her mother cried, and rushed with it to the galley kitchen. "Oh, he's torn," Honor said. Her bear was badly injured, lumpy from lost stuffing. "He's been searched," her father murmured, examining the ripped seam in the bear's back. "Look at this, Pamela." "What were they searching for?" asked Honor. There were sheets and blankets, pillows, clothes, dishes for the kitchen, pots and pans. There were no electronics, no computers, televisions, or books allowed in private homes because of safety measures. Children could read and study books from school, and when they were old enough, they could borrow books from the school library. But there were no new books printed. There were no authors, except for Earth Mother herself. She wrote all the history books and songs and sayings. She and her corporation counselors wrote the laws and established safety stations on each block, with call buttons for emergencies. At that time in the colonies, there were no telephones in houses. This was part of building a safe and secure community. Unpacking further, Will found that an old-fashioned wind-up alarm clock had been disassembled by the Postal Service, but it wasn't broken too badly. There had been some family treasures, a pair of silver candlesticks and a fine silver goblet wrapped in old scratchy wool blankets. These had been taken, and only the blankets, one blue mohair and the other black and green plaid, remained. Will and Pamela dragged 2 of the trunks upstairs, one for each bedroom. Standing up, the trunks were designed to serve as armoires on long ocean voyages. They were fitted out with cedar drawers on the bottom and hangers on top. One of the trunks even had its original hangers. Will turned the 3rd trunk on its side and made a table for the living room. As the family ate a dinner of baked beans and sausages, Honor ran her hands over the brass-studded surface of that trunk and read the strange names stuck onto it. Istanbul, Cordova. Will had found the trunks in the port of the north, packed, and mailed the family's possessions in them. The air was close and sticky. The house had no temperature controls. "What are those?" Honor asked, pointing at the insects swarming the light overhead. "I don't know," said her mother. "They look like some kind of termite," said her father. "I'm sure they're harmless." Even so, he turned off the light to try to stop the swarming. Even in the house, the sea air smelled like salt and fish. In the darkness, Honor could hear the surf, breathing like a monster, stealing closer and closer, pummeling the shore. The tide was coming in, rough and menacing. "It's not safe here," said Honor. "We're just as safe as we were in the north," said Pamela. "What's that supposed to mean?" asked Honor. In the north, they had lived in big abandoned houses with rotting porches. Paint peeled from the walls. The roofs leaked. Honor played outside for hours. She fell asleep at night to the sound of rain plinking into pots and pans Pamela had set up in her room. The houses stood alone on wooded islands. There were no neighbors. When Pamela saw people coming through her binoculars, she would tell Will, "We have visitors." Then it was time to move again. They hiked down from the forests to flooded fields of long grasses, the earth spongy under their feet. They hiked to stagnant seas, loaded their belongings into small boats. As her parents paddled, Honor looked down into silty water and saw little fish, and deeper, like sleeping monsters, the rusting body of ancient trucks. "We need to celebrate your first day of school," said Will. "We need a cake or some dessert." "I wish we had some," said Pamela. "We need some music," said Will. "Where is my harmonica?" They searched in the trunks, but the harmonica was gone. "A dangerous instrument," said Will. Playfully, he threw the plaid winter blanket over Pamela and the blue blanket over Honor. "We'll suffocate," Pamela protested. The blankets had a peculiar smell. A fascinating scent Will said was mothballs. For a few seconds, the wool had a foreign coolness as well, as if it had stored up some winter in its folds. "Snow covers the north," Will said. "The northern lights fill the sky. Now we're on our sled, and our sled dogs are barking and jumping, ready to go. What do you say to the dogs?" he asked Honor. "Dad," she groaned. "What was that? Dad? Is that what you say to them?" He tickled and tickled until Honor was collapsing with laughter. "Mush, mush," she shouted at last. Then Will and Pamela and Honor sang the old songs. Flushed in the darkness, dripping with sweat, they sang to overwhelm the sound of the surf outside. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Will said he would teach Honor a new song. "Over the river and through the wood," he began, "to grandmother's house we go." "What's a grandmother?" Honor asked. Will stopped singing. "It's just an old woman," said her mother. "It's a mother of a mother, or the mother of a father," said Will. "Over the river and through the wood, oh, how the wind does blow. It stings the toes and bites the nose as over the—" "Shh! Listen!" Pamela heard the sharp rapping. Will threw the blanket off and hurried to the door. "Who is it?" "Neighborhood watch." Will opened the door, and they saw a tall, white-haired man in a bathrobe and slippers. "Michael Pratt," the watchman said. "Your neighbor right next door. Just wanted to make sure everything was all right." He held an official government-strength flashlight and sent the beam dancing into every corner. Honor cried out in pain when the light shone in her eyes. "Everything is absolutely fine," said Pamela. "I thought I heard singing," said Pratt. "Oh, that," said Will. "We were singing lullabies to our daughter." Pratt's eyes narrowed as he looked at Honor. She couldn't see him thinking. "She's too old for lullabies." "It's a school night," he said. "Don't you know it's past hour 9?" "Clock's broken," said Pamela, holding up the disassembled alarm clock. "That's the postal service these days," Pratt said in a friendlier voice. "I have sent in a couple of complaints myself." "Really? How would we go about that?" Will asked. "We've got some—" But Pratt cut him off. "You can go ahead and contact the postal service in the morning. For now, let's settle down and get some sleep." Pratt shut the door, and in the darkness and the heat, the ocean seemed to surge louder and louder. Honor trudged upstairs to bed. Her mother followed her. "Do you want your bear?" "Not really," Honor said. Pamela propped the torn bear next to Honor on the floor. "We never had a neighborhood watch before," said Honor. "We didn't live in a neighborhood," Pamela reminded her. "Did I have a grandmother?" Pamela looked puzzled for a moment. "Yes, I think so," she said. "Was she your mother?" "She must have been," said Pamela. "What was her name?" Pamela searched her memory. She closed her eyes to think, but at last she shook her head. "I wish I could remember," she told Honor. "Why did you forget?" "Everyone does," Pamela said sadly. "It's the water we drink, the food we eat." "What do you mean?" "It's late," said Pamela, "and you have to wake up for school tomorrow." "Couldn't we go back to the—" "No," said Pamela. Honor did not think she could sleep with the tranquil sea raging right outside the window. But she was just so tired, her eyes closed anyway. Within 5 minutes, she was dreaming. She dreamed she was with her parents in the north. They were dragging their boat onto a beach covered with little pebbles. The water was clear and cold. Honor saw something move. "What's that animal?" she asked. "A polar bear," her father murmured. "No, it can't be," said her mother, terrified, disbelieving. "There are no polar bears anymore." "Don't move." Honor's father held her tight as the great bear approached. His fur looked like it had once been white, but now had yellowed. His body was gaunt, and he moved up on them fast. Honor's father threw a rock, and then another. He hit the bear with a stone. The animal was weak. Frightened, it limped toward the water. "Go on," said Honor's father. "I don't want to hurt you." But he'd wounded the bear. "Oh no!" Honor cried. "His stuffing is coming out." Sure enough, the great animal's fur was torn, and gobs of white fluff trailed behind him in the water.
So not a whole lot happened in this chapter, but it sure gave us a better insight into the things that are controlled about everybody's life, the safety measures that keep them from having so many things inside of their house. Not only they're not allowed to have phones, computers, any sort of electronics whatsoever. They're not even allowed to have books. What? Think about why is that? And it talked about there's no new books ever written except for anything written by Earth Mother. Think, why is that? That is so incredibly crazy to think about. Even the textbooks that you have in science and social studies, they're written by multiple different people. It's never controlled by only this one person can write everything. So I want you to think about, and that's going to be your prompt. Why do you think that so many things like this are not allowed? Why aren't they allowed to have other books? Why is nobody else allowed to write books? Then also, I want you to look around your house. Find any sort of text or object. Find as many as you can that if you were living in this time, what would you not be allowed to have? And there's a few other things from this chapter that we will be discussing. So maybe jot down a few things that stood out to you.